Heartland Season 19, the sun climbed over the horizon at Heartland, bathing the expansive ranch in a warm, golden light. Amy stood near the stables, her gaze fixed on Lindy playing Nanger the paddock in the fresh morning air. A gentle breeze whispered through the leaves of the surrounding trees, carrying the familiar, comforting scent of hay and damp earth. It felt like a perfect, tranquil morning, yet an undercurrent persisted, a feeling of impending change, a subtle tension that Amy couldn't quite dismiss. For Amy, Heartland had always represented solace and healing. It was the place where her life had unfolded, where she'd known her greatest joys and weathered her deepest sorrows. It was on this very land she had met Ty Borden, the man who showed her how to love, heal, and trust in second chances. But Ty wasn't beside her anymore. His absence left a void Amy had struggled and ultimately failed to truly fill. For years, she had compartmentalized the memories, burying her grief beneath the demands of running the ranch and raising Lindy. But in quiet moments like this, the weight of his loss felt heavy, pressing down on her. "Mom," Lindy's voice cut through Amy's reverie, and she turned to see her daughter observing her with a hint of confusion. "You okay?" Amy managed a smile, though the underlying sadness likely lingered in her eyes. "I'm fine, honey, just thinking." Lindy seemed to accept this, her attention drifting back to the horses. Amy watched her, a familiar pang striking her heart. Lindy had changed so much since Ty's passing. She was blossoming into her own person, independent and spirited, much like Ty himself had been. The resemblance was undeniable, filling Amy with a mixture of pride and a profound, lingering sorrow. How desperately she wished Ty could see this, witness the young woman their daughter was becoming, the girl who carried so much of him within her. As Amy stood wrapped in her thoughts, the distinct sound of tires crunching on the gravel driveway broke the morning quiet. She looked up as a truck approached, pulling into view. Visitors weren't unusual, but this arrival felt different, carrying an unexpected weight, a strange familiarity. The dust kicked up by the tires seemed to hang suspended in the air, thick with unspoken anticipation. Jack emerged from the barn, his eyes narrowing as he watched the truck. Amy's pulse quickened as the vehicle rolled to a stop. Her breath hitched, a fleeting thought crossing her mind. Was this real, or just a trick of memory and longing? The truck door opened with a faint creak, and a figure stepped out. For one suspended moment, time seemed to freeze. Amy stared, her breath caught in her throat, recognizing the man she hadn't seen in years, someone intrinsically linked to her past. Her heart hammered against her ribs, her hands starting to tremble as she instinctively took a half-step forward. Ty! It couldn't be. It felt utterly impossible. Yet, there he was, standing before her, inexplicably alive. Ty Borden! Amy's mind reeled as she remained rooted to the spot, struggling to process the impossible reality before her. She had dedicated so many years to grieving him, to painstakingly rebuilding her life, convincing herself the profound love they shared was irrevocably lost. But seeing him now, the intervening years seemed to dissolve. Tears welled in her eyes, and she fought for composure, feeling unsteady on her feet. The man who had once been her entire world was back, standing solid and real before her, looking almost unchanged by the year. Jack's face lost its color as he recognized Ty, his usual stoicism momentarily cracking. Lou nearby gasped audibly, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. Lindy, shielded from the deep emotional history, simply looked up at the stranger by the truck with open curiosity. Amy took another hesitant step forward, her gaze locked on him. Ty! Her voice was barely a whisper, trembling with disbelief and a sudden, fragile hope. Ty's eyes found hers, his expression softening, revealing a vulnerability she recognized. There was no mistaking the look, the same deep affection, the same warmth that had drawn her to him all those years ago. He was truly back, and the future she thought was lost suddenly felt tangible again. "Amy," Ty said, his voice soft, husky with emotion, as he took a hesitant step closer. "I never wanted to leave. I swear I didn't. I never imagined I'd have the chance to return. I've made mistakes, Amy, serious ones, but I needed you to know, I'm here now. Amy's heart felt like it skipped a beat, her mind racing as she looked at him, searching for words that wouldn't come. So much had transpired since he'd vanished. She'd constructed a new life, learned resilience, moved forward, found stability, and yet, faced with him now, the powerful echo of the love they'd shared surged back, undeniable. But how could she risk opening that door again? How could she possibly welcome him back after the chasm his absence created? Amy took a shaky breath, trying to ground herself as she faced Ty. Her heart pounded, the immense weight of their shared past and painful separation pressing down. The moment felt utterly surreal, like a vivid dream she half expected to dissolve, yet wasn't sure she was ready to embrace. Ty, Amy whispered again, the sound barely audible. How can you be here? Is this really happening? Ty stood before her, looking both exposed and resolute, his face etched with regret and a deep, yearning hope. He moved closer, the small distance between them, feeling vast and filled with unspoken history. He clearly had so much to convey, yet for a moment, he just held her gaze, taking in the sight of the woman he'd loved, the woman he'd left. Hurting her was never his intention. I know this seems impossible, Ty began, his voice thick with restrained emotion. I never thought I'd stand here again. But staying away, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live with leaving you, abandoning everything we built together, but there were things I had to face alone first. Amy searched his face, the familiar warmth in his tone, resonating deep within her. A part of her desperately wanted to believe him, to trust that this was the same man who had once promised her forever, who had been her partner through triumphs and trials, but the years had irrevocably changed them both. Was this truly the Ty she had loved so profoundly, or a man altered by experiences she couldn't fathom? And what did his sudden reappearance mean for the life she had so carefully reconstructed? You left, Ty, Amy stated quietly, her voice trembling slightly. You left when I needed you more than ever. I had to somehow gather the shattered pieces of my life without you. I had to find a way forward. For Lindy, for my own survival. I couldn't just wait indefinitely. Ty's expression fell, his gaze dropping. He knew she spoke the unvarnished truth. He had abandoned her during her most vulnerable time, and the wound of that desertion was still painfully fresh. I am so sorry, Amy, truly, more than words can say. I never meant to cause you that pain, but I wasn't the man you deserved back then. I wasn't. A surge of old anger flared within Amy. It wasn't just the grief of losing him that stung, but the sharp sting of betrayal, the way he had simply vanished, leaving silence and unanswered questions. For years she'd tortured herself wondering what went wrong, why he offered no explanation. Now, facing him, the urge to lash out, to tell him the depth of his devastation, was almost overwhelming. But why, Ty? Why did it take so long? Amy asked, frustration coloring her tone. I had to keep living without you. I forced myself to keep going, even when my heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces every single day. And now you just reappear, as if no time has passed. Ty closed his eyes for a brief moment, absorbing the impact of her words. When he opened them, his gaze held a quiet determination. I couldn't come back sooner, Amy. I wasn't ready. I was still battling my own demons, completely lost. I couldn't be the partner you needed, if I couldn't even find myself. But I'm here now. I know that doesn't erase the past, but I want to try and make amends. I want to try again, if you'll give me a chance. Amy's heart clenched as she absorbed his plea. There was an undeniable honesty in his voice, yet the scars remained, deep and sensitive. She had built a new life, a stable future, partly with Nathan offering quiet support. Nathan had been a steady presence, kind and patient when Ty was absent. He had helped fill the emptiness Ty left, and now her heart felt torn in two directions. Lindy, sensing the heavy atmosphere between her mother and the stranger, stood quietly nearby, her eyes shifting between them, confusion evident on her young face. Amy felt her daughter's gaze, heightening her awareness of the incredibly complex situation. Lindy was growing older, more perceptive, and Amy worried about the impact this reunion could have on her. Ty's return might resurrect painful memories of a family unit that no longer existed, a past they couldn't simply rewind. "Mom," Lindy asked softly, moving to Amy's side and tentatively taking her hand. "Who is this?" Amy looked down at her daughter, then back at Ty, the reality hitting her with full force. This wasn't just about her and Ty anymore, it was about their child. It encompassed the life they once shared and the separate life Amy had forged since. "Lindy," Amy began, her voice gentle but firm. "This is Ty. He was very important to us. A long time ago. Your dad and I, we shared many good times." Lindy studied Ty intently for a moment. Her expression, a mixture of caution and curiosity, was important. Amy offered a faint, sad smile, the words highlighting the passage of time. "Yes, sweetheart," was Ty smiled warmly, crouching down to Lindy's eye level. "Hey there, Lindy. It's really good to finally see you again. You've grown so much." The days following Ty's shocking return to Heartland unfolded under a cloud of palpable tension that neither Amy nor Ty could fully escape. While initial greetings were exchanged, and a fragile reconnection with Lindy was made, their shared past loomed large, a constant reminder of the lost years and unresolved pain. Amy had been so certain she'd moved past Ty, that the deep love they once shared was a closed chapter. But having him physically present, alive, real, radiating that familiar warmth she remembered so vividly, left her deeply conflicted. Every time their eyes met across the yard or barn, a part of her heart instinctively yearned for him. Yet, another part, the part still bearing the deep wounds of his abandonment, remained guarded, hesitant. The scars were invisible but potent, and Amy struggled to reconcile the lingering pain with the nascent hope his return ignited within her. The ranch, always Amy's sanctuary for healing, now felt more like an emotional crucible, a place where love and hurt were locked in a silent battle for dominance over her heart. Ty, too, felt the immense weight of their complicated history. Returning hadn't been a simple decision or an easy process. The years away had fundamentally changed him, forcing him to confront difficult truths about himself and evolve into the man standing there now. He'd learned painful lessons, but the guilt over leaving Amy lingered, a heavy burden. He knew erasing the past was impossible, but he was desperate to build something new with her, something honest and lasting. Yet, he also recognized that Amy's heart wasn't waiting for him where he'd left it. She had moved forward in ways he hadn't foreseen, and earning back her trust, let alone her love, would require patience and proof. One crisp morning, as sunlight streamed through the leaves, casting dappled patterns across the fields, Amy found herself drawn towards the barn. She hadn't seen Ty yet that day, and while part of her craved space to process the emotional turmoil, an undeniable pull urged her to seek him out. Reaching the barn, she saw him standing near one of the stalls, his hands resting lightly on the worn wood. He was gazing out towards the distant hills, seemingly lost in thought. Amy paused, observing him for a quiet moment, the way the light caught the lines of his face, the posture that seemed simultaneously strong yet burdened. It was a poignant reminder of the man she had loved with such intensity. "Ty," she said, her voice soft but clear in the morning stillness. He turned, and for a charged second, their eyes met. A silent cascade of emotions flowed between them, guilt, longing, uncertainty, and beneath it all, a fragile flicker of hope. "Hey, Amy," Ty replied, his voice low and steady. "Just think." Amy nodded, stepping a little closer, acutely aware of the invisible space separating them. Despite their physical proximity, the air felt thick with unspoken words, crucial conversations neither knew how to initiate. "I don't know how to do this," Amy confessed, the words tumbling out before she could censor them. "I don't know how we just pick up. You vanished, Ty. You left me heartbroken, and I don't know if that damage can ever be fully repaired. I don't know if I can bring myself to trust you again." Ty stepped towards her, his expression earnest. "I know I haven't earned your trust, Amy. Not yet. I know I hurt you in ways I deeply regret and can never undo, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again. I want to show you I can be the man you deserve, the partner you need, but I can't do it without you. I need you to let me try, to let me back in, even just a little. Amy's chest felt tight as she listened. She heard the sincerity, the plea in his voice, but the fear of repeating that devastating hurt was a powerful deterrent. It was a constant internal war, the desire to forgive, warring against the instinct to protect herself from the kind of pain his departure had inflicted. Ty continued, his voice unwavering but laced with emotion. I'm not expecting things to magically go back to how they were. I know we've both been changed by time and circumstance, but I'm asking for a chance, Amy. A chance to rebuild something new, something stronger, to show you I'm not the same person who walked away all those years ago. You don't have to forgive me today, or even soon, but please, let me try to show you I'm committed. To you, to Lindy, to the possibility of a future for us. His words struck Amy with the force of a physical blow, stealing her breath. For years she had subconsciously longed to hear him say these things, longed for the day he might return, and acknowledge the pain he caused, the heart he shattered. But now that it was actually happening, the reality felt overwhelming, almost dreamlike. Could she truly allow herself to be vulnerable with him again? Could she risk reopening her heart, knowing the potential cost? I don't know if I can, Amy whispered, the admission raw and painful. I've worked so hard to move forward, to heal myself, and now you're back, and suddenly everything feels chaotic and uncertain again. As days bled into weeks, the delicate tension between Amy and Ty remained a constant presence, sometimes receding slightly, but never fully dissipating. Amy tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, immersing herself in her work with troubled horses, and focusing intently on Lindy's well-being. But unavoidable moments occurred, a shared glance across the barn, an accidental brush of hands, that brought the full weight of their unresolved history crashing back. His return had unearthed a complex mix of emotions, residual love, lingering grief, deep regret, and a confusing uncertainty Amy didn't know how to navigate. Ty, meanwhile, dedicated himself to demonstrating his commitment and change. He worked tirelessly around the ranch, pitching in alongside Jack and the other hands, hoping his actions would speak louder than words. Yet, despite these efforts, Amy maintained a careful distance, reiterating her need for time and space to process his return. Ty tried to respect her boundaries, but each day that passed without bridging the gap felt like a small eternity. The quiet nights were often the most difficult for Amy. Lying awake in the stillness of the house, memories would surface unbidden, shared laughter during quiet mornings, whispered dreams for their future, the comforting feel of his arms around her after a demanding day. She'd find herself wondering if recapturing that kind of intimacy was even possible. Could they truly rebuild what they had lost? Or had the passage of time and the depth of the pain created an insurmountable barrier between them? One evening, as the setting sun painted the sky in dramatic shades of orange and purple, Amy found herself drawn outside, standing near the porch, gazing out at the darkening fields. She hadn't consciously decided to come out, but the emotional pressure inside felt unbearable. Her thoughts were too jumbled, her feelings too intense. She desperately needed air, needed clarity. Hey! The familiar voice startled her slightly, and Amy turned to see Ty approaching her slowly. His expression was gentle, his eyes holding the same familiar softness that had once captivated her. Whether it was the accumulated exhaustion of the past weeks, or simply the emotional weight of the moment, seeing him standing there felt almost overwhelming. "Hi," Amy responded, her voice barely audible. Meaningful conversation felt impossible. The right words seemed lost, trapped behind an emotional wall she couldn't dismantle. So she just stood there, arms crossed protectively over her chest, trying to shield her vulnerable heart. Ty came to stand beside her, maintaining a respectable distance, but close enough for his presence to be felt. The silence stretched between them, not awkward, but laden with unspoken emotions and unresolved questions. After a few moments, Ty broke the quiet, his voice low and earnest. "I miss you, Amy. I miss what we had. I understand things aren't the same, can't be the same, and I know I don't deserve instant forgiveness. But I need you to believe me when I say I'm not going anywhere this time. I'm here for you. I'm here for Lindy.
I'm here for— Amy turned her head, looking directly at him, her heart constricting with each word he uttered. She saw the raw sincerity in his eyes, the regret etched in his posture. This clearly wasn't easy for him either. His words landed with unexpected force. She had spent so long trying to convince herself that the love they shared was extinguished, that guarding her heart was the only safe path. But facing him now, she couldn't deny the part of her that still felt irrevocably connected to him. I don't know how to do this, Amy admitted again, her voice cracking slightly with emotion. I don't know how to rewind time, how to pretend the last few years didn't happen. I've changed, Ty. The person you left isn't entirely the person standing here now. I built a life without you, and honestly I don't know where you fit into it anymore. Ty reached out then, his hand gently covering hers, the simple warmth of his touch, acting as an anchor in the emotional storm. I don't expect things to be the same, Amy. I don't expect this to be easy. But I'm here now. I'm not asking you to forget or forgive immediately. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that maybe, just maybe, we can build something new together, something different, perhaps even better. Amy's heart gave a nervous flutter at his words, yet the deep-seated fear remained, a cold knot in her stomach. What if it truly wasn't possible? What if the damage was too extensive? What if trying only led to more heartache? I don't want to be hurt like that again, Ty, she confessed, her voice thick with quiet desperation. I can't bear the thought of giving you my heart completely, only to have you disappear again.